Welcome to the Bad Girls on Business, the podcast that makes business more fun so you want to do more of it. Here are your hostesses with the mostesses, Jenny Bellinger, Virginia Muskies, and Michelle Nedelec.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Bad Girls on Business. I'm Virginia Muskies, the referral diva, and I'm here with Jenny Bellinger, the direct sales dom, and mistress in business, Michelle Nedelec. Today we are excited to welcome the exotic, alluring, executive sultress that she is, Paulina Tenner. She is an entrepreneur, an angel investor, a TEDx speaker, and an author. The company she started in 2010, Granttree, specializes in R&D tax credits and R&D grants. This is sort of non-equity funding for business. Interestingly, she has implemented this concept called holacracy, which is a full financial transparency and self-set pay system in her company. She is passionate about burlesque and used to perform as a showgirl. And if you're watching this video, you can see she's got her showgirl headpiece on right there. And she loves meeting interesting people. And she's got a really interesting book called Laid Bare, What the Business Owner Learned from the Stripper, coming out in July of 2021. So we are excited to welcome the gorgeous, brilliant Paulina Tenner to the Bad Girls on Business. Hi, Paulina.
Woo-hoo! I'm so excited. Thanks for having me on the show.
Don't you love her accent, you guys?
I do.
Absolutely.
I know.
You just have to talk. That's really all you have to do.
Yes, it's
You're
your
good to
show.
go.
We're just gonna sit back here and look cute, right? It's good.
Okay.
It's all good. So, Paulina, why don't you just talk a little bit about the? Let's just go to the burlesque background. Like, what happened to make you decide like burlesque was a thing for you?
So for those of you who have ever been to London, there is a place called Piccadilly Circus. And I was in that place once, completely tired, exhausted, disillusioned. I was maybe 2 years into building my business, which is now 10 years old. And it was just really consuming all of my resources. And I felt like, God, my passion, my fire, my energy, none of it is going into something creative and something rebellious, something out of this world. And I just thought to myself, what if I could do something just for me? And as I was thinking that, I was walking from Piccadilly Circus towards Leicester Square, and there's a place there called Café de Paris where showgirls perform. And I just made a decision on the spot. I would find out how to become a burlesque girl. And I did. I shot a few emails to some of my girlfriends, and I got this email in response, oh, there is this awesome school called the Cheek of It. You should definitely try it. So I went, signed up for a few courses, started performing, and the rest is history.
That's very cheeky.
And apparently we're also a little cheesy here.
Hey, they named the company, not me.
Right. So the question I have for you from that, Paulina, because I know one of the things that has come up for me just in the naming of my own podcast is the question of, well, aren't you afraid of, right? Aren't you afraid of the repercussions of being a burlesque dancer while being a more traditional entrepreneur, you know, in your everyday life, right?
Services.
Yeah. How do you answer that question? I'm curious.
This couldn't be more different. Like, hi, I'm a professional services and financial services professional, and I'm a stripper. Da, 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 da. Like, how do you do that? That's a great question.
Yeah. So for a while, I enjoyed this kind of split personality. I had my life during the daytime and my life at nighttime. And it was kind of like really exciting to have this split personality for a while. And then you ladies have watched my TEDx talk. I decided at some point to really integrate it and to make a statement that, yes, it's not only fine to have and use your sexual energy in business, but it just makes you really stand out and makes you electric and magnetic and really draws people in. So at some point I was just like, to hell with it. Whoever is not okay with it doesn't have to deal with me.
That sounded very regal. Just to hell with that.
I know, with that head thing on too, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Well, and I would definitely say that in that process, you probably also then attract more people because they feel you being truly authentic. You're not hiding any part of you, because if you can share the fact that you're a burlesque dancer, people go, well, she's probably not hiding anything.
There's not really a lot of places to hide stuff in a garter belt.
Yeah, and to be really honest with you, once you've shown your bare ass to an audience of 100 or however many can fit in a club, there's not much more that you're afraid of as well.
I
And
feel
does this
that way
sparkle
just
make my
having
ass look big?
children.
I would. The thing is that big asses look better on stage than smaller asses. Trust me, they really. The dancer with the most charisma are usually the slightly biggish dancers. One of my favorite dancers ever is this like big black lady who's just fabulous, and she's got this crown of Cadbury chocolate wrappers on her. on her head. Apparently, she eats a lot of Cadbury. Anyway. The question was, how did I integrate that? So at some point it was just a matter of like, F off world. If it's not for you, I don't have to be for everyone. And guess what? Since I integrated those two split personalities, I actually got on one of the most prestigious policy panels in my industry. And the chairman of this panel told me that he saw my TEDx talk. And that's how he decided to reach out to me. So, some people definitely responded positively to it.
I think one of the things that's really fascinating, I mean, I've seen you a couple of talks, right? I've seen the Laid Bear talk and then the BDSM in business kind of talk. And a couple of the things that I find interesting, like the whole burlesque thing, it really is about not taking it all so freaking seriously, right? Like as a burlesque dancer, you're not taking yourself all that seriously. You're not taking the audience all that seriously. And you're really kind of only making them think you're showing them stuff, right? Like there's an allure to it. Like you don't play all your cards, but they know you have the cards, but you're not playing all the cards. So it's interesting to me that sort of the dance in business about knowing which cards to play and which cards to hold back and when to play those cards. There's an element of that, is there not?
Yes, and it's a game. It's an alluring game. In fact, when all is said and done, business boils down to human connections and a little game that we all play. And I think once you're a stripper and you have played that game many times with your audiences, choosing whether to reveal or not to reveal, I know strippers who have walked off stages completely clothed because the audience wasn't giving them enough love, wasn't cheering loudly enough. It's similar in business. I think you kind of choose to tempt people, tease people a little bit, just to see, is there a spark, is there an attraction between us? Do we want to deal together in business, or is that it? Shall I walk off stage fully clothed?
There you go. I mean, God, I love the balls behind that of saying, saying, oh, you didn't give me enough, so no, you don't get any of this. Like, I love that. I love the idea of that, because so now it's like, okay, now how do we translate that into business? How does that apply into playing that type of card? How do you see that showing up?
Well, if I'm talking to a potential business partner or a potential client and there is no spark, there is no kind of electricity between us, then in other words, if it's not a hell yes, it's not a yes at all.
That's
nice.
sexy.
I love that. How, other than your attitude, obviously would have changed during that period, but did you notice that your business changed through that period?
Yes, my business definitely changed as a result of me changing and me showing up more vulnerably, more confidently, with all of my true colors. The business grew and evolved, and I guess I started to understand that it is all just a game after all. I started being less precious about things. I could let go of controls. I started employing people, and I wasn't terrified anymore of how they would perform and passing my clients onto someone who is just clients that I've won with hard sweat, blood and tears, onto someone junior who has just been brought onto the team. I was much less precious and more relaxed and more settled into myself, I would say.
Nice. I love that. So clearly, would you recommend people who are stressed out to become at least burlesquers, if not strippers?
Absolutely. Show your ass to an audience is a medicine for everything, particularly for stressed out people who are a little bit too precious about themselves.
I'm going to go sign up for burlesque lessons like in 20 minutes. As
I'm
soon as we're
coming
done
with you.
this.
Fabulous.
Pardon the pun.
And I'll be in the audience to watch your first show, ladies.
Like, when is it? Or what is it?
I'll be in
She
the
said we
audience.
wanted.
Go ahead, Paulina.
I'll be in the audience to watch the first show that you could create.
Yeah, in St. Louis, we have a little sort of our own little French quarter. So we've got like the boom boom room, and we've got a pretty hefty burlesque community here. And Lola Vanella is like at the head. She's sort of the diva of the burlesque community here. So that's pretty interesting. Let's talk really quickly about the whole notion of BDSM in business, and what I really want to the DS power dynamic as pertains to being a founder, being a CEO, and where the business is, what role the business plays, what role the founder plays, and maybe what role the founder plays regarding maybe employees or something like that. Like, how does that polarity and that work for you in business?
Yeah, so it's my first act ever that I performed was actually about a dom in a corporate environment that kind of stomps over the dead bodies of men on her way to the top. But secretly, all she dreams about is actually submitting to someone. And I had this beautiful made-to-measure suit, which was prepared for me by a really good friend. And underneath that, I had this bondage belts and chains, leather and chains costume. And I think it's really important, particularly as a leader, to know those two sides of yourself, and we all have them, the desire to lead and to be aggressive and to, yes, penetrate the world, the market, the whatever it is that you want to penetrate. And also the side where you'd actually quite like to surrender to the bigger picture, to whatever wants to be manifested through you. And I think that's really important, particularly if you're going to employ and lead people, to know those two sides, to know that about yourself, what those two sides look like and taste like, and to understand that other people have those two sides as well. And if you're going to lead them, you need to come from a place of enough self-knowledge and enough vulnerability to be believable.
One of the things that so I'm a switch, so I kind of have this on both sides of this.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm thinking, what's really thinking in my head is like, as the founder, if you're going to be surrendered to your business, then you talked about having your boundaries, right? That the submissive actually has a lot more control than people give the submissive credit for, but that that founders often can be not good submissives. Like a good dom wants a good submissive that is communicative and can set the boundaries and right, and knows what experience they want to have and what they want to explore, right? And so as a founder, having that is an idea you talk about. And then it also just occurred to me that there's this relationship between the employer and the employee, which is something I'd love for you to dive into, in that as the employer, your job is to create an employee experience and give them the experience and the challenge that they need. So they're getting enough stability, but they're getting enough edge that they grow and they want to come back because it's electrifying. And you've got some systems in your business that kind of do that. The whole, the transparoquacy. I don't remember what you called it.
Holacracy.
Holacracy. Talk about that a little bit.
Okay, so holacracy is a system for operating and governing your business, which is alternative to hierarchy. So instead of having hierarchy of people, you only have hierarchy of work. So no one is anybody else's boss. So it's in a way, it's a flat structure. There is some hierarchy, but it's only a hierarchy of work, which means that if I'm a senior person in one project, I might be a junior person in another project at the same time. And we've coupled that with self-set pay and complete financial transparency, meaning that every employee has access to our financial accounts and knows exactly what's the cash situation of the business, what the money is being spent on, what are budgets, what do budgets amount to, and who's holding them, etc., etc. And I totally agree with you that leading is a dance between challenging people just enough so they're excited, so they're really motivated to come back to you and come back to the drawing board over and over again. And at the same time, giving them clear direction. So giving them clear direction, but also giving them just enough of a challenge.
Yeah, I like it. So when oftentimes we have people that'll say, hire people that are better than you at what you do so that they can do the job right. And I'm assuming even if you hire somebody junior, if they're with you long enough, eventually they're going to get better at their job specifically than you were as a generalization to it.
Absolutely.
So how do you challenge people that are better at what they do than you are?
It's a really good question. I think with vulnerability and with just the recognition that, yeah, I'm not going to come at it as your boss, because I'm not your boss. You're the boss of yourself. I can challenge you because I believe that maybe what you're doing in the workspace is not allowing me to do my best job at the moment. So it's kind of standing in the way of me doing my best job. So let's talk it through and let's see what you can do to improve kind of my working conditions. And I can, by all means, be in a position where I'm less good at something than somebody else is, but still something that they're doing is interrupting my workflow. So it would be my weakness if I was not to bring it up with them.
So Brene Brown in Dare to Lead talks about the value of the rumble, of that, of the value of the vulnerability of the leader to say, I'm falling apart here and it's because, and I need this from the team, and for the team to be able to have those conversations as well. Do those conversations happen organically inside your organization, or do you have a system for creating that dynamic where people can appreciate one another? They know how much each other is getting paid. So there's a delicate sort of conversation of balance so that there's not resentment. Like, why does Jenny get more than I do? And Michelle gets less than I do. And that's not fair. Like, the normal human stuff.
Yeah. Yes, those conversations do happen. We are training for them all the time. So we are becoming better and better at them. But they do happen, and there is a mechanism for making them happen. So we have those two types of meetings that happen within the structure of Holacracy. There are tactical meetings and governance meetings. And within tactical meetings, you kind of bring up issues that are currently standing in the way of you doing your best work. And that's typically, okay, someone is in their role of, I don't know, project manager is not getting something delivered on time. And you bring that up in that meeting. There is a mechanism to bring it up. And also we have peer-to-peer feedback mechanisms. So we have somebody who actually wants to change their salary needs to have been doing monthly self-assessments for quite some time, and just so they're actually aware of what they're doing, what they're good at, how they've done against the targets that they've set for themselves, and therefore, are they worthy of a pay raise? So there are definitely mechanisms that we have, but it's a lifelong learning, I think. And for an organization, it's something that delivering feedback, and particularly difficult feedback, is, in my view, one of the key components of a successful team.
So one of the things that I pulled from that is the fact that you are training people how to have that conversation, which I think is super important. Because one thing I've learned as an adult is it's really surprising how few people know how to actually communicate. Lots of people know how to talk. Very few people know how to communicate. So I love that you guys are actually training people through that conversation. And I'm guessing that communication then spills out those new communication skills spill out into other areas of the business. So where do you see, in the 10 years that you've been doing this, where have you seen the improvements of communication from we all get to set our own salary, and is it spilling out into other areas, and where have you seen it spilling out into other areas?
Yes, I would say that setting our own salaries, it's almost the crowning, the kind of cherry on top of a cake of actually putting in layers and layers of good communication and understanding each other. And when people ask me what can I do in my business to at one point have financial transparency or self-set pay, I say start with culture and structure, because if those are not ready to contain the changes that you'll need to make and what will actually happen when you reveal people's salaries, it will all go tits up. So it's a question of kind of slowly putting in one system after the other and training people and showing how you're struggling as well with giving feedback and with challenges that any working together as a team brings, and creating a kind of culture that will one day be able to support financial transparency, for example.
Nice. Do you see yourself as a pioneer in that whole realm, or are you gathering information from other sources, other companies, and going, hey, that worked over there, maybe it'll work for us?
I think we are, to be honest, we are somewhere on the edge of the different practices these days in different companies, but I definitely wouldn't say that we're the first to practice this. The more you study and the more we read into this area, the more we discover some fascinating entrepreneurs and companies that have implemented similar concepts. Actually, self-set pay was inspired by Ricardo Semler's company in Brazil. So there's a guy called Ricardo Semler. He's got a really good TED talk, and he implemented self-set pay in the 80s, I think, of last century in the manufacturing industry, in a company that had, I think, already at that time, thousands of employees, and he implemented self-management as well. So it's just, we're definitely standing on the shoulders of giants. But at the same time, when I tell someone in the business community that that's what we do, I usually get a what? So we are a little bit on the edge, but I'd like to think that there'll be more and more of us.
I love that idea. So let's move to this last concept that you and I had talked about pre-recording, and that is this. In order to, you mentioned creating the container, right? You've got the leader needs to create the container in which all of this can happen. And when there's a crack in the dike, the leader's got to be able to patch that container or grow that container for what it needs to be. And you have a 4-letter framework for leadership success. And it's edgy, but what the heck, right? So let's wrap up with that. Talk about your leadership philosophy.
Okay, cool. So for me, a wholesome leader is someone who's got their both feminine and masculine principles well integrated. And in my 4-letter framework, there are 2 feminine characteristics and 2 masculine characteristics. And the feminine characteristics are C and T, and the masculine characteristics are U and N.
Nice.
Yes.
I get this. I see it.
You can
see it, ladies.
You can almost smell it, can't you?
Yes. So that accent of yours, girl.
C in the framework stands for curious, and that's for me a key characteristic. If you are open-minded, if you're learning, if you stay curious, you never take yourself too seriously. So Virginia, you were talking about everything being a bit of a game, and people in burlesque not treating themselves too seriously. So that's, I think, curiosity is absolutely key to that. U is unapologetic, so you don't apologize for your charisma and for your vision as a leader. N is notorious, not in the kind of bad, ill, not in the kind of negative meaning of the word, but in the notorious as an animal. So someone who pursues, Paul Graham, the founder of Y Combinator, calls his investments or founders of companies he invests in animals, as in they're really pursuing something with that kind of notoriety, with that ballastness. And that's also this kind of penetrative, focused, masculine characteristic. And I wrap that up with T for trustful, because there's so much to be said about really trusting yourself and trusting the process and trusting the bigger picture. And here's the 4-letter framework in a big, big shortcut.
Nice. Well, at least Virginia didn't say, so talk to us about your cunt.
And
I was waiting for it. It never happened. I'm like,
of course, Michelle would like you to do that, Paulina, because
there was one.
I
can tell you where the initial inspiration for it, and it was even going to end up on the cover of my book, but I decided against it. Was a cunt cake. So I'm known in my company as someone who can really embarrass anyone with a dirty joke if she really wants to, and kind of is a little bit irreverent, yes. And for my birthday, I've got this big cake with the letters CUNT on top of it, and I would go up to my, girls and boys in the office and say, "Would you like a piece of my cunt?" And they would be like, there was this one guy who's Welsh, and he is a redhead, and he went all pink in like 1 second, and that was just to die for.
When I talked to Paulina, I had this discussion. It's very interesting because, of course, that particular word in the US is still like, it's the last of the 4-letter no-nos. Like we've gotten past the F-bomb, we've gotten past shit, we've gotten past pit, like all of the George Carlin 4-letter word, the words you can never say on TV, but that one in the US remains. But like in Europe, I remember going to Europe in the late 70s, early 80s, and my girlfriend in Spanish was like, "Ay, coño, mamá," and I was like, "Oh, she just said this word to her mother." Like I was just like, I was waiting for her mother to like turn around and like lambaste her, and nothing. She didn't even say like, "Don't talk to your mother like that." Her mother like blew it off, and I thought, okay, that word doesn't mean the same thing here as it does back in my little New Jersey podunk hometown.
Yeah, and I would like to live in a world where this word is a compliment.
Oh, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's a huge difference in HR policies too. You can go and ask your staff.
Yeah, talk to us about your HR policies, Paulina.
That was awesome.
Oh my gosh.
Oh gosh. Any last questions, ladies?
I think we've pretty much covered it all. I mean,
uncovered it.
Uncovered it all. We've uncovered it all, but probably left just enough.
With the CUNT, which is which is the last place to uncover, typically, to be honest, on the burlesque stage.
As it should be, because again, you want to make sure that people really want it, and so they better be cheering for it, because
they need to appreciate all that.
Exactly. I
deliciousness.
mean, my favorite takeaway from all of this is if it's not a hell yes, it's not a yes. So I love that. I love that. I love that. I love that. So thank you, Paulina, for sharing your perspective on this. It's been so much fun.
I want to know when the book's coming out.
In July.
You want to pitch the book a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So it's got 2 parts. The first part talks about my journey as a burlesque girl and my journey as a business person, and what I've learned about business, performing, and also how being in business made me a better showgirl. And the second part covers the CUNT framework and the masculine and feminine principle, and how to be aware of both and integrate them together.
I cannot wait.
Nice.
I want to go pre-order it right now if pre-order is available, because that needs to be on my list.
Fabulous. You will definitely be kept up to date, I promise.
We'll put that in the show notes when we get it. So Michelle, what's your biggest takeaway from today?
That I totally want you on the little blue pill. That is a given.
I love the blue pill. Blue pill.
Little blue pill for business.
Yes.
So that's Michelle's
Get it up.
podcast.
Keep it up. Love it.
See, it's a tagline that writes itself.
She's done her homework. It's great. For me, I got to tell you, Paulina, this is what I got. I wrote down, I want to be, and a series of adjectives that you use to describe yourself: rebellious, outrageous, irreverent. And I think that, especially, again, at home here, we tend to be sort of puritanical. Like we don't understand that the creative force of feminine energy, and we don't understand the creative force of sexuality and sexual energy.
We tame it. We punish people for it. We still do. It's incredible.
Yeah. We hide it. And then the other thing is this notion of, if I show up overtly feminine, like if I show up in that, then I'm going to get, ooh, baby, want to do me a sexual favor, to which I usually respond, oh, you'd have to be a man for that. Or like, a man wouldn't have to ask me for that. Right. Like, so I've always got a nasty retort for it. But being willing to sort of put it out there and to be whole and be completely feminine, because I do think one of the things I've struggled with and really worked on over the last decade is being over masculinized in order to make it in the men's world. When you think like Annie Hall back in the days where we all dressed up like men and, we acted like men and we had to make it in the corporate world. And so just that notion of being really rebellious and outrageous and irreverent and unapologetic really resonated with me. And so, all y'all who know me, you better look out, because it's about to get worse.
I love that. Well, and I want to make sure, because we've all given our big takeaways. Listener, if you have a big takeaway, make sure you go to Bad Girls on Business. Is it badgirlsonbusiness.com or badgirlsonbusinesspodcast.com, Michelle? I can't remember.
Badgirlsonbusiness.com.
Bad Girls on Business. Okay. Listener, make sure you go to badgirlsonbusiness.com and let us know what your big takeaway from this episode was. We want to know. So, please, that's a great way to interact with us and share with us what you learned from Paulina. And we'll make sure that we also have her contact information available there as well. So at this point, Virginia, we wrap it up.
Let's wrap it up. Hey, thanks,
definitely brings new meaning to cunty management, I just want to say.
Yes. It also just occurred to me that it also brings new meaning to let's wrap it up.
Let's wrap it up.
Wear a condom.
Be safe. All right. Yeah. Thanks, guys. Thanks for listening to another irreverent episode of the Bad Girls on Business podcast. We're all over the place. So subscribe to us, rate it, review it, go to badgirlsonbusiness.com. Comment on your biggest takeaways and download some of our free goodies. So the Bad Girls on Business have business builder tools for you out at badgirlsonbusiness.com. And we are super excited to have you and look forward to talking to y'all on our next Bad Girls on Business episode.
Thank you for listening to the Bad Girls on Business podcast. Don't forget to check the show notes for any links mentioned in this episode and for additional contact information about the guest or our hostesses. If this show got you going, we'd love to hear about it when you subscribe, rate, and review the show on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. Can't get enough of the direct sales dom, the referral diva, or your mistress in business? The Bad Girls have hidden their gift for you at badgirlsonbusiness.com. When you find the Easter egg, use the password BGOB to unlock your treasure chest of goodies.